Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining Painting with Picasso's Grapevine. My name is Leanna Hahn, and I'll be your host and teacher for today. Today we are staring at a very blank white canvas, and what we're going to do is just have a little bit of fun with flowers. So I get a lot of questions on how do I make a flower, where do I start, how do I build it? And really with acrylic paints, that's kind of an excellent word to use, is building. So we're going to build this up in layers. I'll start you out with a couple easy ones. We're just going to do some nice light lilacs. Everybody likes lilacs. As always, we are working with acrylic paints today, and I've got a nice array of different colors. We're working with some beautiful pink magenta, we've got alizarin crimson, of course white, we've got some dioxazine purple, some phthalo blue, phthalo turquoise, cad yellow, a light green, and then a cad green as well. I have a whole array of different paintbrushes today, so I'm not going to go through which ones I have. I just like to have them all on hand because we'll kind of jump between what I feel comfortable with and for yourself at home. As well, always have your dab rag for cleaning off your paintbrushes and a cup of water for washing off. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start off by making a kind of pink lilac. We'll kind of do maybe a pink one and a purple one. So to get that going, we're going to start working on our lowest layer, our base layer. And in general, I like to incorporate at least 3 colors. You've got your mid-tones, your lowlights, and then your highlights. So 3 tones of a similar complementing color. So we'll get started with wetting off our paintbrush here. I think I'm using maybe, looks like a number 4, somewhere around there, round. And I'm going to go ahead and take this pink and just kind of start it on the canvas. Now, there's a lot of pouncing involved here, just dabbing, pouncing, and blotting. So we do a lot of that. We're just kind of trying to get the form on. I'm not necessarily trying to fill anything in, just trying to get some color, some combination of color on the canvas. And we'll do another one. You know how those lilacs kind of have that bunches kind of growing all together. So we'll stick another one right here. Again, I'm starting out with the pink. Haven't mixed anything in with it yet, just to kind of get something going on the canvas here. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, grab some of that white, start adding a little bit of complementing highlights. As always, I try to remind people that flowers in nature are messy. So make sure your edges are inconsistent. Give them bumps, give them dips. Don't let them be a consistent cone growing here on the canvas. You want it to be inconsistent. It gives it that feeling of, looks a little bit more real. Now, once I have a layer of white, now you'll notice here what I've chose to do is I put the white on one side. I kind of refer to this as the flashlight effect. So if I had a flashlight, I was shining it on my canvas, where would the light fall? Where would the shadow fall? So as long as you remain consistent and kind of visualize where that beam of light will go, it kind of helps you remember where to focus the majority of your white, where to focus the majority of your undercolors or your darker colors. So now that I have the white on, I'm kind of coming in and just placing a little bit more of the pink by itself again. Now for a last little hint of depth, I'm going to grab this alizarin crimson, and in just a few places here. Not a lot, because this is a pink, but I just want to give it a little bit of depth in a few spots. And as well, you don't have to isolate your white to one side. Have the majority of it fall to the side you're going to place or emphasize the light, but you can still spread it around in different spots. And then the very last touch, I'm just layering and kind of glopping on some of that white, and that's to kind of show where the largest amount of light is actually falling and hitting your canvas. So I'm not kind of blending it in, smushing it in, or blobbing it in. So we'll kind of repeat this process one more time over here. Now, if you feel like your canvas is getting too bouncy as you're kind of hitting against it, you can place your pinky, that's a nice little trick, to kind of steady the canvas. And again, I'm just kind of working around with my white, adding it to one side. And I'm not even really cleaning off my brush, I'm just kind of maybe dragging a little bit off. Go ahead, grab some of that pink, re-emphasize some of the spaces that perhaps have gone too light. And then we'll go ahead and grab some of that alizarin crimson and just touch in just a few spots here. Keep those really, really deep red accents more towards the base and less away from the top there. All right, so we've got a couple of nice little flowers going. So let's kind of move over and we'll do one of those, I think it's called, they call them a hydrangea. So we'll give you kind of a fun hydrangea. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with a little bit of this turquoise, this nice phthalo turquoise, and just kind of get some cross hatching down here. Kind of developing up just kind of a circular figure here. Now, what I'm going to do is immediately grab some of this phthalo blue, come in on top of it. I really love that combination of the phthalo blue and phthalo turquoise. So if you start blending it too much on top or you're losing some of that turquoise, just grab the turquoise, especially when the paints are nice and wet both at the same time, and you can kind of incorporate the two together. So I'm going to get a little bit lighter here at the top because again we're going to apply that flashlight effect. And we'll go ahead and drop this in our water. I'm going to go ahead and rinse off some of that heavy color and grab some of my white to now start adding some highlights. Again, I'm just doing kind of a cross hatch. It's kind of a combination of a crossed hatch and a tap. So I'm kind of cross hatching and then tap a bit. Cross hatch and then tap. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit over here. And then on the flip side, I'm going to grab some of that phthalo blue and phthalo turquoise and kind of come back up if I'm losing a little of that depth. All right, so what we're going to do next is we'll move into our number one. We're going to grab a nice thin little number one brush and let's grab a little bit of our phthalo blue and we're just going to add just some little sprigs of interest here. Now you'll notice as well in this flower it's not a solid ball. While it looks circular in its overall configuration, it's not a solid ball. There is still some variation here. So I'm just kind of coming in a little bit, sometimes a little bit into the flower, sometimes right from the flower, just kind of making it inconsistent. And we'll just add some light little dots. Just to kind of say, all right, something going on here. Now you'll also find too, when you're doing these little, tiny little streaks, if you're having a challenge getting your paintbrush to move across the canvas, you get a lot of dimpling, that's your canvas telling you you either need more paint or your paint needs to be watered down. So go ahead, add a little bit of water to your paint, and then it'll help it kind of flow a little bit easier. So you need even a little bit more water. There you go. All right. So we got a couple flowers going on our canvas. I'm not really trying to build a specific scene here, just trying to give you some examples of how to do some very easy flowers. But let's kind of top it off with adding on a couple examples of just common stems. So I always like to use 3 combinations of greens, a deep green, a light green, and then a yellow for like that nice highlight. Yellow is really the equivalent of a white. You know, if you're trying to do a lot of highlights, people tend to grab the white to show the light. When you're dealing with foliage and greenery, yellow is an awesome highlighter. So I like to use my chisel brush. So it has a nice tight edge, nice way to actually make nice stems, and it's got kind of angle at the top here. So we'll go ahead, get that wet. I'm going to start off with my deepest green, my cad green. And we'll just kind of come down here. And again, I'm going to add a little water to get that spreaded and moving. Okey-doke. Kind of come in with a little bit of this light green, just as a highlight, and maybe just a dash of the yellow. I'll throw in a little leaf. Just kind of swooping it down, forming it out. And then I will come in with that nice yellow right on top. There you go. All right. So the same thing here. We'll just kind of bring a quick little stem down. Grabbing the 2 different colors of green. Adding in a little bit of yellow. And just letting them kind of build and form as we bring them down the canvas. We'll toss in another leaf here. And give it a nice little highlight. There you go. All right. So hopefully this has given you a couple examples of some nice, really easy, non-intimidating flowers. A lot of pouncing, 3 colors, stick to your mid-tones, your highlights, and your undertones, and just have some fun with it. Hopefully you picked up some tips here and you're enjoying yourself. If you'd like to learn more about how to do these types of paintings, send us an email to info@picassosgrapevine.com. Thank you.